Greetings, folks. Well, it's a warm welcome from us on what was a cold, blustery and at times wet weekend because Indy, we went down to Broadview, on myself and Tim Pillion, and it poured down with rain. What game were you at?
I was at the Brighton game at Brighton Oval, so thankfully the facilities there are fantastic, so I was able to get plenty of shelter, but yeah, definitely I wouldn't have wanted to be a player out there.
And we understand some of the games, as we said, were played in the wet while others were played in the dry, which may affect sometimes percentage and outcomes. Anyway, my name is Tony Neal. I'm joined by Indiana Rogers. And Indy, what have we got on the show this week for our viewers?
As per usual, quite a bit. The Coach of the Week Farmers Leap Award will be given away as we do every week on this show. Phil Herden will give us the wrap of all the men's and women's division results from the weekend, and Tommy Javor will give us the Division 1 wrap as well and go over some of the best players from the weekend there. We'll also give you Division Specialist coverage for Division 6 and Division 3, courtesy of myself.
And I'm covering Division 6 this week because Jad is away on holiday, so look out. It's all happening. Of course, we've got the goals and marks of the week, a comprehensive wrap there. The leaderboards, we're going to have a look at some of the leaderboards, the stats and analysis, and some of the things that you can look at with Dartfish. So it's exciting times here, Indy, because there's a pretty comprehensive coverage through there. We have a new segment, this man over here. This is called Indy's Analytics. So you are going to have a look at that Brighton game versus Tea Tree Gully, which was won on pretty much last kick of the day. We also, this week, folks, we have a live stream on Friday night of a Division 3 game, so we're going to talk that up as well. Please stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Round 8 was an opportunity for a lot of teams across the league to keep their season alive, but one particular team did it in the best possible fashion. The Giant Killers, the Scotch Old Collegians team, beat Modbury in a huge upset to stay in finals contention for the year. And their faithful coach has won the Coach of the Week award for tonight and this week. I'd like to welcome Jason DeLuca. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Indy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Jason DeLuca, I love that surname. What nationality is that actually?
It's Italian. So my dad came to Adelaide in the 1950s with a lot of Italian immigrants after World War II. So that's where it comes from. Yeah, from Naples, in fact.
Very nice stuff. Well, there's a lot to get through in terms of unpacking that game against Modbury, but in particular, I'd like to go through quarter by quarter here just to kind of build that up, because you're only 2 goals won to 20 points during quarter time. What was the adjustment to the players at that point, and what was at that point a low scoring affair?
Yeah, look, I guess the address to the players was, and a little bit, there was a similar theme from before the game, embracing the conditions. If people remember back to Saturday, it was pretty torrential rain. Our game started in fairly heavy rain, so I don't think it was even so much necessarily about the lack of score. It was about focusing on continuing to defend really hard and defend really well. So quarter time, certainly impressed with the start, really comfortable with where we sat at quarter time, and then sort of addressed what we needed to do in the second quarter in terms of some of our ball movement.
Yeah, and the conditions would have played into it because, of course, some games got torrential rain and others barely got a few drops. So it was very different depending on where you were across Adelaide at the time. Half-time, 3 goals, 6-24. You're still down by 5 points, 4 goals, 5. Does the main break give you more time for a more thorough adjustment to the players? Do you get to sit down with them individually? Were there any particular jumpers that you pointed to? Not necessarily in an antagonistic manner, but you just wanted to spend extra time really dissecting?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think we're probably fairly similar to most coaching panels in that when the siren goes at halftime, the first conversations are really with the other coaches about any changes we need to make, anything we've identified from the first half that we want to try and adjust in that time that we have with the players. On that particular day, the conversation with the coaches was very much around just what our forward line was looking like. We wanted to try and be a little bit more effective with the way that we were not just winning the ball inside 50, but then converting from there. In terms of pointing guys out at half time. It looked, I guess it varies in terms of the game and the situation. There was certainly a message to a few of our guys, in particular in terms of the roles that they were playing. And I think I touched on just before, we had a fairly strong message around that we needed, considering the conditions. We had a couple of big guys that were contesting really well in the air, and we didn't anticipate that they were going to be able to take many contested marks. So it was really about our small forwards and our mids working hard to get to the fall of the ball. And on days like that, it's very much just about attack the goal square and make the most of your opportunities. And I thought we certainly did that really well after half time.
Yeah, the second half was instrumental. You're up by 7 points at three-quarter time, and then you go on to win the game by 19, which actually means a lot more because Modbury kicked 3 goals in the first quarter. They only kicked 3 more for the rest of the game. As it sits on the Div 3 ladder, you're currently ranked 6th position, so just shy of the finals with that 4-win, 3-loss and a draw record. But you're ranked top 3 for points conceded, and you don't rely too much on a one-trick show pony in the forward line either, because you don't have any major goal scorers in the top 20. Your leading goal kicker for the year, I believe, has got 11 goals on record. So is it about sharing the love when it goes up the ground and not worrying as much about the superstars and who's wearing the jumpers behind those goals?
Yeah, absolutely, Indy. I like that term. It is really about sharing the love. I spoke early on in the season, I think in pre-season actually, to Tony when I had a chat to him the first time and talked a lot about the fact that what we do at Scotch would be built around the way we defend and working really hard on defending the ground and defending particular areas of the ground. And I've tried to make as much as possible that it's attacking, and when we move the ball forward, not making it too scientific. I think you want to encourage guys as much as possible to play a little bit more of a natural game. Footy players tend to like to attack, and they're really good at attacking. So I think we spend a little bit more time on the defensive side of it. In relation to no superstars or no one-trick ponies or key forwards, I think to be fair, we probably had a fairly changing team over the first half of the season as well. Some of that through injury and unavailability. So we've really had to make the best of what we've had, and I'm really pleased with the way the group has done that. I'm really pleased with the way that forwards have embraced particular roles that we want them to play, and in the end, and I think a philosophy that our guys would be pretty happy with in the end. We don't really care who's on the end of it. It's just about making sure that when we get those opportunities, we utilise them. But yeah, look, I certainly wouldn't shy away and hide from the fact that we're really strong on the way we defend, and we hold that really, really highly at the club. It's about the way we defend when we've got the opportunity, and then obviously when you get an opportunity in front of the sticks, try and convert.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've sent a warning sign to the rest of the competition now. Unley, Mercedes, Jets and Hope Valley are going to be watching the footage of that game and realising nobody is safe at the moment. The ladder is not lopsided in any way, and actually it's getting very competitive towards that middle chunk. What is the expectation now towards the rest of the year? Are you aiming for that finals finish as a progressive step towards more long-term success over the years, or is it here and now we're going for the flag?
Look, I think any coach would be lying if they didn't tell you that they didn't want to play finals. So at the start of the season, that was certainly our intent, is we want to play finals. But we're also really realistic about the fact that it is a very tight division. I only mentioned that to our players after the game on Saturday. I really think, to be honest, from whoever's sitting top on any given week, all the way through. Look, I look at Gazer, who's sitting bottom at the moment, winless, and I think they're one of the best winless teams that I've ever seen. So I think you're right in what you're saying. It is a really competitive division. But we won't shy away from the fact that we believe that our best football gives us an opportunity to play finals. And like any team, if you manage to get yourself into finals, then you give yourself every shot at the end of the year. So, we certainly don't set limits, but I think we're all also realistic in the fact that there's still a long way to go, and we've just got to keep executing our plans every single week.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us, Jason DeLuca. Before you go, as a reward for being one of the best coaches of this week and one of the best individual coaching performances of the year, in my opinion at least, You get 2 random shots for the Farmers League Coach of the Week award. You get some Shiraz and some Cab Sav. I'm not too good with my wine pronunciation. I'm not a drinker myself, but of course, I hope you enjoy those. You might even want to save them for the ladies' night, because I know that's in a month's time, and you know, that's completely up to you whether you want to just bring them to the couch the next couple of nights and watch the replay of that match that you coached and just look at it from a bird's eye view and feel a lot more relaxed, because obviously you get that privilege watching after the fact.
Yeah, it's always nice to watch after the fact, and thank you for that. I'll certainly they'll certainly find a way to drink them somehow, whether it's on the couch at home or at Ladies' Day in about a month's time. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Jason, and we hope to see more performances like that throughout the year.
And welcome to the Weekly Wrap with Tommy Javor, reviewing Week 8, Round 8, and just about to move into Round 9, the halfway mark of the season. It was 4 out of 5 for myself and Filthy Phil Herden last week, just getting the one wrong. And let me talk about Saturday. Never before have I seen sustained rain like on Saturday for the A grade. And I was at Park 9, so I can't speak for the entire day of the other grounds, but the entire 4 quarters it was raining from between a mild drizzle to a dangerous heaviness that I had to stand in to do the awards. It was a difficult day for football, and the scores and the closest of the game probably reflects that. So let's have a look. We always start with our Stream Team match of the round, and it was PAC and Glenunga. 11 scoring shots apiece, believe it or not, from 2 teams that are capable of so many more scoring shots. But it was PAC 8-3, 51, 10-point winners over Glenunga 6-5, 41. Goal kickers for PAC was those men, Brazel and Davis again kicking a brace, and Ollie Clark bobbing in for 2, including the first one in the game, a really important one to get PAC going. For Glenunga, Mike Wunke kicked 3. Our player in focus is Chris Curran from PAC, a man that needs no introduction. You'll hear a lot about him during this little wrap. He had 25 touches at 84%. He had 8 marks, and on a day like we had, impressively 4 contested marks. He was able to get the ball behind the play, shifts up to on wing at times, but his work rate back and forward. He's the man. If I was looking at how to curtail PAC's influence, you talk about all those big-name midfielders, Chris Curran down back sets up so much of their play. Let's have a look at some of those Dartfish stats when we look at the game. After half-time, bless you, mate, my cameraman's about to sneeze, we had a total of 3 goals. Hey, we're real here. We had a total of 3 goals for both teams. So it was reasonably high scoring first half. The game dynamic changed. The ball obviously got heavier, the ground got heavier, the players got more tired. There's 63 free kicks for the game. Close to 50 of them, I think, were in the first half. There was more whistles than, it was like a rave back in old London town, 1992. Whistles going off everywhere. In the second half, the umpires put the whistles away, caused a lot of stoppages. PAC 22 more marks. They tend to have more marks. They do use it very well. But where they probably got Glenunga was 33 more effective disposals. Again, that elite chiselling ball use of those midfielders and half-backs. Very hard to stop. With all of that wrapped in a bow, they actually had less inside 50s. They make sure their forward 50s count. So a little bit of something in that for all of us. Let's look at those awards. The TJ Award of the Archie's Thongs. Archie's, put them on your feet. They're a treat. It was Mitch Larson in his first game back. He was in and under, a little nuggety type on a day. He was a little pig dog made for those types of players, those rainy, wet, moist conditions. Our Moseley voucher best team player was Hayden Jolly for his work. He had a great game. I think he's leading the entire league in efficiency. His ball use is unbelievable. Having said that, quite amusingly, his final kick of the game went out in the full. We all enjoyed that because we hadn't seen that before. The Neomorph Mouthguard player of the day was selected by Phil, not by me. It was a beautiful team goal, 3 or 4 linking handballs, some run, and getting on the end was that man, Juice Jaden Davis, kicking a wonderful sausage roll. The best on ground New Balance voucher and Dartfish beanie went to Chris Curran. So hopefully you've seen photos of all those guys. They are very happy and again very giving of their time. We thank Pity and the PAC boys for letting us do the quick interviews post game. Now, the award that everyone wants to win is the Roll the Dice Player of the Year. Giddy up, $7,500 worth of horse. And it was 1 vote to Hayden Jolly, I've mentioned him already. 2 votes to Alec Harron, the returning Glenunga captain. I'm not sure what his stats were. Doesn't matter what his stats were. His tackles, his smothers, his creativity, his work rate. He is the heartbeat in the middle of Glenunga, and he really, really didn't give up at any point. Good 4-quarter game from the skip, and best on ground, Chris Curran. Both teams will be there in September. It's PAC's efficiency, which has them standing above the rest of the league. They're the most efficient team. If you look at the Dartfish stats, they're really good. If you haven't got the program, get the program. I think 4 of the top 5 players are from PAC for efficiency. So PAC have probably proven why they are top of the table. Let's have a look at the other games. And again, I wasn't at the other games, but, well, it was all in Adelaide, so I'm assuming they were all pretty wet. Big shout out to Broadview for the highest score of the round. 12-8-80, 29-point winners over Old Iggy's, 7-9-51. Major goal scorers were Ralph and Pratico for Broadview, whilst it was Brad Jones, the only multiple goal scorer for Old Iggy's. He kicked 3. The player you'd be looking at right now is that man, Jack Fergus. He's number 31. Incredible stats reading for this one here. He had 21 disposals at 95% on a day like Saturday, and his kicking efficiency, 100%. All 17 kicks hit the target in the wet. I don't know Jack personally, but if I did know Jack, I'd say, Jack, that's pretty good. So let's have a look at the votes, and you won't be surprised to hear his name again, but it was James Kennedy from Old Iggy's with a 1 vote. A man who's putting together a great season, Sam Danielle from Broadies. He's having such a good season, I should probably learn how to say his name properly. And best on ground, that man, Jack Fergus, Mr. Efficiency. Over to Port District and Goodwood, and we had our eyes on this one all day. It was a really, really interesting contest. It was close, it was real close, but in the end, Port just got the chocolates. 5-11-41, Goodwood 5-5-35. The man who you are looking at in player focus is number 24. From Port, it's Kenny Carpeney. Kenny had 27 touches, and of those, 20 were kicks, very strong in the clearances. Having seen Kenny play a couple of games this year, he's one of the real catalysts to that strong midfield, along with Gray, Sharrod, Gaffney, these types. The major goal scorers, it was Preston Cockatoo Collins kicking 2 goals, a really good effort in the wet, 2 out of 5, and Kenman for goodies. Looking at the Dartfish stats as well, looking at the team stats, some interesting reading. Goodwood had more kicks, more marks, more handballs, more tackles, more frees, and more hitouts. That's right, they won all of those statistical categories. Port won 2 statistical categories, 2 that probably really mattered in the wet. They had 9 more clearances and 6 more inside 50s. 5-11-5-5. Roll the dice player of the year time. 1 vote, Jack Carter from Goodwood. Great to see Big Jack back. I think you'll see a rise in Goodwood stocks and their form, with Jack in the middle giving him first use, that beautiful left-hander reverse Malachi that he does. Work it out, assistant opposition coaches. He goes backwards to the left. He had 51 hitouts. Good to see you back, Jack. Second best on ground was Tom Schmushy, as they call him, from Port District. And that man, Kenny Carpenter, was the best man afield, winning himself a pair of Archie Stone. He's probably wearing them right now, I reckon. Okay, on to the college battle. Sacred Heart and St. Peter's at the middle school. Again, some of the kicking, eerie how accurate they were on a day like we had. Shock 10-3-63, St. Peter's 6-5-41, a 22-point win. The player in focus is number 6, Tristan Kakaro. His main asset on the day was the fact he was the leading goal scorer with 3 goals, kicking efficiency at 88%, so a good effort there. Other multiple goal scorers were Fox and Lauby. Having a look at the Dartfish team stats, and there's some really interesting ones here. This one tells a tale of what sort of day it was indeed. So hitouts, total hitouts for the day, 129. That's a lot of stoppages. It was 89-40, incidentally. Clearances, 106. Combined clearances, 106. I think it was 53 each memory. And tackles, it was a slightly in favour of St. Peter's, believe it or not. 201 tackles for the day. I'm just tired of reading that. Where Shock probably did get control of the game is they had 30 more marks and 35 more effective kicks. 35 more effective kicks on a wet day is huge. So it was Kakaro with 3, Fox with 2, Lauby with 2. Let's have a look at the votes. Clayton Simons from Shock with 1 vote, Charlie Allen from Spock with 2 votes, and Tristan Kakuro from Shock with 3 votes. What have Shock proved to me? They belong in the top 4. The big challenge awaits next week. Okay, and our last game of the round, this is the one that I got wrong and Phil got wrong, and well, we only just got it wrong. It was Brighton 10-8-68, saying, no, Teacher Gully, you don't get 5th spot just yet. Teacher Gully 9-9-63, a 5-point win. The man who we're going to be looking at was the difference. Jake Tarkin, number 14 from Brighton. He had 4 goals. He was the difference, and he kicked the winner. So a great effort there. For Teacher Gully, Spence bobbed up. He's been quite effective up forward again with 3, and little men, Alex McKay and Pistol Pete Personos kicked a couple each. Again, a 5-point win, a huge win to Brighton there. And that just gives them just that little sniff. It's not over yet for Brighton, especially if they win this week, which we expect them to. The votes, a man who's playing a very consistent season, former Crows mascot, Nigel Osborne. 2 votes to another man who he polls regularly. He's getting close to riding that horse. He's the man that neighed at me Blake Penny, 2 votes, and Jake Tarker, best on ground, with 3 votes. All right, we are just about at the halfway point, so we need to have a look at some of these leaderboards. We haven't done this one yet, so we're going to look at the goal kicking leaderboard. I've mentioned it a few times. Jaden Juice Davis, the 19-year-old dynamic left footer out of Glenelg this year. He's kicked 28 for PAC. Kakuro from Shock, 21, very consistent. Razzle Dazzle Brazzle now has 17 from 4 games. Colotto from Shock with 16, and Wellesby from Brighton with 15. Also, just nipping behind the top 5, a couple of familiar names, Pete Personos and Michael McMahon of Glenunga and Tea Tree Gully, respectively. The award they all want to win, though. They want to ride the horse. I think his name's Red Rowie. Hopefully I've got that right. 5% share in Red Rowie with 7.5 to... This horse could win the Melbourne Cup. It might not, but it could. All right, so let's have a look at the leaderboard. We'll work our way from the bottom up. We've got 3 players on 7, Louis Sharrett, Abe Davis and Alex Colotto. They're one best on ground away from being equal leader. Bo Schwartz has got 8 votes. Had a really good second half on the weekend, quiet first half. And courtesy of 3 threes, 3 best on grounds, Chris Curran, he's on 9 votes, but Blake Tickets Penny leading all comers on 10. All right, let's have a real good look at the ladder just before we turn for the halfway mark. PAC 7-1, catch us if you can. The one game they dropped was Port District. How did they get them? Tackling pressure. 3 teams on 6-2, Sacred Heart, Glenunga and Port District. All right there. Who's going to play PAC in the grand final? Might be the question that some people are asking. Or am I going too early? Tea Tree Gully sit 4th on 4-4, but nipping at the heels. Broadies 4-4, Brighton 3-5. Goodwood 2 and 6 in 8th. I think they're probably going to have a better second half of the year than they did the first half. I expect them to improve and maybe even just start getting a bit of momentum together. A lot of that will be told in this week's game. And the bottom 2, Spock and Old Iggy's, they'll need something very special to happen to avoid relegation. Let's have a look at this week's games, and we're going to start with Old Iggy's and Brighton. This will be Brighton's chance to have their 4th win of the year, turn 4-5. They have a percentage of 41.47, so they'll be looking to win and win well at Karen Rolton. I expect they will get the chocolates. TTG, that's Tea Tree Gully, and PAC at Pertaringa. Tea Tree Gully have gone from 4-1 to 4-4. They need to make the change now. It's just unfortunate. They're meeting probably the best team in the league and the best Div 1 team I've ever seen on paper. So I'll take PAC in that one. What a match. Caterer, Spock, can they do it? No, they can't. They've got Port District too strong for mine. Port District just building a nice season after starting 1 and 2. That's 5 in a row. We'll come back to that one. I'm going to call a match of the round. Broadies and Goodwood. That one is at Goodwood. Now, this is I can't even say danger game for Goodwood. They need to win this to go 5-4 and be in the 5. Goodwood at home, Jack Carter back. Their list doesn't look that bad to me. I'm not sure what happened there. It's going to be a really, really tough one to tip. I'm going to take the Tigers because they know if they don't win this one, they're probably not going to be there at the end of the year. And our match of the, I'm not sure if it's a stream team match of the round, but a match that probably needs no introduction. It's 2nd versus 3rd. It's last year's. So these 2 teams, interestingly enough, over the last 2 years have been the runner-up in Div 2, and here they are meeting to become the kings of Div 1. It's Glenunga and Sacred Heart at Webb Oval, which is, of course, the home of Glenunga. Sacred Heart, since their round 1 loss, have been near on perfect. Glenunga started 6-0, lost their last 2. Haven't been embarrassed, that's for sure. Lost by a goal. Oh, sorry, it was 12 points kick after siren against Port, and by 10 points to PAC. Not a bad effort at all. I think the 6 returning players from Glenunga were good, but they'll be even better this week. People are going to say, oh yeah, you're at Glenunga, you're showing favouritism. No, I believe Glenunga will find a way to beat Shock. It'll be close, it'll be a good game. Hopefully the rain stays away and it'll be a bit of a shootout. But for mine, it's Glenunga. This has been Tommy Javor for the Adelaide Footy League, for Dartfish TV, for everyone, for Rowett behind the camera there. Hopefully you didn't sneeze an eyeball out, Rowett. It's been fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Keep watching Between the Posts.
Well, good day, footy fans. My name is Phil Hurd, and thanks to O'Neill Sportswear, welcome to the Weekend Wrap. A look at all the A-grade results, ladders, and upcoming big games across the men's competitions in the Adelaide Footy League from Saturday, June 17. Let's get into it. Starting with the CMAX Clinical Research Division 7, where Para Hills and Ingle Farm maintained their ascendancy atop the division with wins against Hackham and Houghton District, both by 29 points. Pretty similar at Mawson Lakes, where Flinders University got up by 28 points. Much closer game was the Battle of the Lions, and in this case it was the visiting team OSB Lonsdale, slightly more accurate in what was a day, let's face it, difficult playing conditions overall. Just that little bit more accuracy proved the difference. OSB Lonsdale winning by just the 6 points. So no great surprises there. The ladder, well, that starts to spread out. Para Hills, Ingle Farm, 1 and 2. It's a 2-game gap now to Flinders University and OSB Lonsdale, who have jumped Houghton into 4th place. The Raiders, well, they're still in 5th, game and a half ahead of Mitchell Park, Hackham and Mawson Lakes, with that one draw looking for their first win of 2023. That the CMAX Clinical Research Division 7, where the biggest game, well, next week it's top 4 versus bottom 4. Round 9, Mawson Lakes and Hackham, a chance for one of those to get a win. And Ingle Farm second plays OSB 4th. That's probably your best matchup. O'Neill Sportswear, Division 6, looking at the results here. Central United over St Paul's by 43 points. Marion on the road, and inaccurate Adelaide Lutheran will rue that. They lost by 23. A couple of, oh my goodness, results. Salisbury, 145 points over Smithfield. That pales into the significance of what Greenacres did to Brahma Lodge, held Brahma Lodge, the Tigers, to just 1 point at home. Or Fitzroy took care of Rosewater by a straight 6 goals. The ladder here, after 8 rounds, Greenacres still without a loss and the 1 draw, Marion half a game back. Then a little bit of a gap to Salisbury and to Fitzroy. Central United in the 5, a game ahead of Adelaide Lutheran, and then a game to Rosewater, game and a half to Smithfield, half a game, say St Paul's, half a game to Smithfield. Brahma Lodge sitting in the cellar. Division 6, I've got Marion second playing Salisbury third. That'll be a great game. St Paul's and Brahma Lodge, maybe a chance for Brahma Lodge to have a good game, or St Paul's, if they get a good win, to put a gap between them and the relegation zone next week. Wayfield Sports Clinic Division 5. Here, Pulteney on the road, too good for Elizabeth. Trinity Old Scholars, too good at Gawler for Woodville South. Cracking scorelines at Dwight Reserve between Eastern Park and West Croydon, especially given the conditions. How often do you kick 16 goals in the rain and lose? That's what Eastern Park did by 29 points to the high-flying Hawks of West Croydon. Meanwhile, Jeps Cross remained the sole undefeated team across all the men's A grades in the Adelaide Footy League. They held off third place Colonel Light Gardens by 8 goals. And Kilburn maintained close distance with Jeps Cross in second spot with an 81 point win, travelling down Prospect Road to take on Blackfriars Old Scholars. The Division 5 ladder, Jeps Cross, as mentioned, sole undefeated. Kilburn, then a 2-game back to Trinity, who have jumped Colonel Light Gardens into third spot. West Croydon are in the 5 on percentage from Blackfriars, Pulteney and Elizabeth. 4 teams, all on 3 wins, separated by just percentage. A game back, Woodville South. So we've got a game between 5th and relegation. Woodville South hold that at the moment with 2 wins. Eastern Park just the 1. The games coming up of note in Division 5, West Croydon and Blackfriars, 5th versus 6th. And Woodville South and Eastern Park is 9 versus 10th. That's going to be huge as upcoming relegation will occur at season's end. 9 News Division 4. And here, some pretty close results. The biggest blowout, 20 points. Morphy Parks at home beat CBC Old Collegians by 8 points. In an upset, the Kookaburras at Lockleys won by 11 points. Again, accuracy, wet weather, proving a difference. Portland, who had a pretty poor season, took on the league leaders at home, kept it pretty competitive, going down by just 20 points. Walkerville over Mitcham, and the battle was actually at Plympton. Plympton and Hectorville, the dogfight, it was the Hounds beating the Bulldogs by just 1 point. That does mean a little bit of ladder movement. Paraka replaced Lockleys at the top of the 9 News Division 4. CBC Old Collegians and Hectorville now tied for 3rd. Plympton still in 5th, but they're tied with Kenilworth and Morphy Parks at 4 and 4 for that 5th position. Walkerville with a pretty good percentage for a team with a losing record, are just a game behind. From Mitcham and Portland, still winless. In the Division 4, it was an interesting round. First, third and fourth, they all lost. It is top 5 versus bottom 5 this week, except Paraka and Plimpton. That's first versus 5th. On to Division 3. And here, only Mercedes continued their good run of form, kept Gazer winless to a point win over the road. Bit of a surprise here, Scotch Old Collegians at home, defeating the league leaders, Modbury, by 19 points. Pembroke had a crushing win at Bartley Terrace over Smosh West Lakes. A 1-point margin between Seaton and Westminster that could be critical come season's end. And Hope Valley defeated Flinders Park by 16 points. The ladder in Division 3, Hope Valley still on top. Only Mercedes half a game back. And well, Hope Valley now top, because Modbury were top, they're now third. Flinders Park, Pembroke winning records in the 5. They're half a game ahead of a Scotch, who then there's a bit of a gap. 1.5 wins to Smosh. Seaton, they now have a 1 game and about a 9% buffer over Westminster Old Scholars to avoid relegation down the track. And Gazer, again, still winless. The games in Division 3, well, the cracking contest is going to be Friday night. It's going to be at Cooper Stadium, the annual game that Pembroke have. They'll be hosting league leaders Hope Valley. Hopefully you'll get some decent weather, hopefully a cracking crowd. And that game, I believe, Filming Footy will also be live streaming as well. We go to the Breakthrough Mental Health Foundation Division 2. Golden Grove stayed at top the division, 37-point win at home over Edwardstown. Athelston at Uni won by 29 points. Rocks have had a pretty good recent run of form, 34-point winners over North Haven. Payneham Norwood Union right up there at the top, 4-goal winner over Foss Camden in what was probably the game of the day. And Henley starting to move up a bit too. They had the close one, defeating Salisbury North with 3 less scoring shots by just 2 points. The ladder, Golden Grove and Payneham, 2-game gap now against the rest of the competition. 3-way tie for third, the Raggies, Rocks and the Phantoms. 2-game gap to a 3-way tie for sixth, Uni, Edwardstown, Henley. Salisbury North, a game back. North Haven, 2 games back. Their season looks perilous. Division 2, games of the week this week. Athelston and Ross Trevor, 3rd versus 4th. And Foss versus Adelaide Uni, it's 5th versus 6th. If Foss win, Adelaide Uni lose, starts to create a little bit of a gap between the top 5 and the bottom 5. That leaves us just Division 1, and here a pretty close round again. Port District and Goodwood Saints. Another close game at Largs Reserve, another low-scoring affair. Districts have now made it, I reckon it's about 4 or 5 in a row now. They beat Goody Saints by just 6 points. Probably the Saints, one of their most competitive efforts in recent weeks, but came up short. Brighton Bombers, bit of an upset. Tea Tree Gully are just struggling just that little bit at the moment. The Bombers at home by 5 points. Broadview, Old Ignatians, the Tigers there by 29 to stay right on Tea Tree Gully's hammer for 5th spot. 2 collegiate teams, Sacred Heart and St. Peter's. St. Peter's kept it even for a while. Sacred Heart eventually at home by 22. And the stream game that myself and Tommy Javor are at, Prince Alfred and Glenunga. After quarter time, Prince Alfred sort of held Glenunga at arm's length, in the end winning there. Well, ended up by 9 points. I think we had it by 10, but it is by 9. The ladder sees, Prince Alfred now with that big top of the table clash win over Glenunga. They sit alone atop the standings. Then it's Sacred Heart, Glenunga, Port District, 3-way tie for 2nd spot. It's hard to see any of those 4 teams missing finals. And I'm saying that with 10 rounds to go. Tea Tree Gully, Broadview, tied for 5th. Brighton just a game behind. At the moment, it looks like 3 teams for 1 spot in the finals. Then you've got the bottom 3, Goody Saints, St. Peter's, Old Ignatians. And yeah, which of those three is going to avoid relegation at this point? We'll find out a little bit more in the next week. Old Ignatians host Brighton. Tea Tree Gully, struggling, doesn't get any easier. They host the league leaders Prince Alfred. St. Peter's, Port District's in good form there. Glenunga and Sacred Heart, that's the great battle, 2nd v 3rd. And our stream team will be at an intriguing contest at Goodwood Oval. The Goodwood Saints, they lose this game to Broadview, then it's all about avoiding relegation. They win it, and they sort of just keep a game or two out of finals contention with a chance of a late run home. So that's all the results. All that's left to tell you about is Phil's Team of the Week. And yeah, this one was a bit of a battle because the two sides that had pretty good upset victories knocking off the league leader. And in the end, I went with the that little girl in the taco ad. Do we have the hard tacos or the soft tacos? And she said, why not have both? So Phil's Team of the Week is Phil's Teams of the Week. To Kenilworth, who defeated Lockleys by 9 points, and Scotch Old Collegians, who beat Modbury by 19 points. Two clubs with teams outside of the 5 who beat the top team and demoted them down the ladder. Congratulations to Kookaburras and Scotch Old Collegians. Alrighty, that's a wrap of the weekend wrap. A reminder between the posts and Tommy Javor's fantastic Division 1 review on Wednesday night. Plenty of other stuff on the Adelaide Footy League Facebook page as well. Thanks to O'Neill Sportswear for their support. Thanks to you for your support. Until next week, enjoy your footy.
Welcome back, and also welcome to my coverage of the Division 3 specialist for this week. So we do this once every 3 weeks, of course, for Division 3, and I'm privileged to be giving you the coverage for it because obviously there's been a couple of gradual ladder changes, as Phil Hurdon would have explained to you during his summary. Modbury no longer at the top of the ladder. Hope Valley and Unley Mercedes Jets have surpassed them, but Flinders and Pembroke are also really starting to catch on. They make up the top 5, and Scotch, with their big upset win, they're also pushing down the door. So Div 3 action is coming really exciting right now, and that's also made evident by the evenness of their competitors right now. William Riddle is the only player with 6 best player performances on Play HQ. This is obviously performances deemed worthy as best on by the club officials and the coaches, so it means a lot when you can get that 6 different times, and it's hard to negate his impact. 6 out of 8 games is definitely a lot, and well, there's a lot of people on this list that make up 5 best players, obviously, and that just shows how even the competition is right now. 2 from the top 3 are from Modbury, Darcy Pisani as well as Aaron Stewart. So once again showing that impressive depth of Modbury's list. They lost on the weekend, but it does show that their midfielder is not one to be reckoned with at all. Jack Kelly from Scotch Old Collegians has now jumped into the top 4 on the back of his really strong performance on the weekend against Modbury. And that just goes to show what type of impact he can have. And one player to get excited about for a team that hasn't had a lot to celebrate this year, Stephen Tahana. I know Gaza haven't won any games this year, but it's good to have players like him on the team that can give the fans something to look forward to, at least something to watch, a highlights reel within a game that gives you a reason to come to it regardless of what's happening on the scoreboard. He's a very jack of all trades type of midfielder, and he's the exact type of player that many midfielders would want to have on their list. If you gave him to one of the top 3 clubs right now, who knows what they could do. So obviously others would be looking at him, but he's made his home at Gaza and he's doing a really great job there. We talk about the leading goal kickers in the competition as well. Well, we now have 6 players who have reached over the 20 goal mark for the season. Rounding that out is Luke Heaslip, who's worked really well with Jake Sutcliffe this year to make sure that he can pair as a very formidable forward combination. He helps Unley Mercedes Jets a lot, and that's one of the highlights of their team because they're not the strongest midfield in the competition, Unley, but they have a fantastic forward line combination where one has a short game, the other will always reign supreme. It's really hard to shut down both of them, and very reminiscent of the Cameron and Hawkins combos and Curnow and Harry Mackay combos that we talk about at AFL level. Quite unforgettable. But also we look at some of the others in the top 5. 22 goals, Mark Evans for Pembroke. Alex Forster for Pembroke as well with 23. That's another very formidable goal-kicking duo. They spread the love there, but they've got 2 major superstars to get most of their output. So that's 2 of the top 5 teams right there, really defined by a strong forward line. Matthew Min for Hope Valley has 28 goals and has jumped into the top 3, and 2 players are above the 30-goal mark. Liam Verity from Modbury and Daniel Nobes from Hope Valley. So that's the third of the 2 key forward combinations that we have on this list. And it just goes to show that, well, Division 3 is really known for their key forwards right now. If you like seeing key forwards take big marks and kick bags, get down and watch a Division 3 game on the weekend. But also to go over a little bit of the ladder, because obviously Phil Herden covered it on the basic level, but we don't talk enough about the defensive and offensive sides of it. So when we talk about some of the best defensive teams, as you would have seen on the Coach of the Week interview, Scotch Old Collegians, one of the top 3 ranked defences in the competition. Number 1 ranked is Modbury. Despite that loss on the weekend, it was in a low-scoring affair, which does show that the only thing you need to do to stop them is to make them sink to your level. Not saying the blueprint has been found by any stretch, but definitely something to keep in mind if you're going to be looking at their tapes in the near future. And when we're talking about some of the best attacks, well, you'd be hard-pressed not to go beyond Hope Valley. But again, we also talk about Pembroke, we talk about Unley. So there's 3 top-rank attacks that all get their output through key forwards. It's not really a small forward competition right now, so it'll be interesting to see how the teams that get relegated and the teams that get promoted will be treated next year in their divisions when they have to adapt to new conditions, and how key forwards will migrate to that. But that is still a fair way away, and there's definitely a lot of interesting results to get underway this weekend, including a Friday night game, which Tony Neal will cover later on tonight. But I thank you for joining my Division 3 wrap nonetheless, and I look forward to bringing you more coverage of what's going on around the league within the next couple of weeks.
Welcome back, folks. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm nice and warm in the roll the dice puffer jackets that they've sent over, and we thank them very much for their support, because of course our leaders in the roll the dice player of the year wins a $7,500 part in a racehorse, which will be absolutely magnificent, and the horse is out training, as we know, at the moment. Couple of things to announce. First of all, let's have a look at our leaders to the end of round 8. Blake Penny from Tea Tree Gully on 10. Chris Curran, PAC on 9. We're all very close. Bo Schwartz, Glenunga on 8. Alex Collotto, Sacred Heart on 7. Abe Davis, Glenunga on 7. And Lewis Sharrod on 7 as well from Port District. More importantly, you not only get a share in the racehorse, you also get a jacket. Roll the Dice Racing, but your jacket even has the name of the horse, Red Rowie, on the front of it. So we can't wait for the end of the year. We'll wait and see who our winner is, and we'll be able to present them with, well, part of a horse, as well as the famous jacket as well. Well done, you guys. Keep going.
Takes the lead in the Gilmore. Crone draws clean out from Mizzy. It's a Queensland victory. And a big payday for his owners, winning the English Millennium in a romp. But Ayrton the class, and Ayrton won the Victoria Handicap. But Mahuda goes all the way. Where again, Mahuda? Too classy for them. The Blue Star flashing beats them all. A Blue Star gets up the win. but it's all Globe. 100 metres to go. It's 6 lengths in front. This is an outstanding performance again, and Globe eased down, won the King's Coronation Cup in a canter.
Well, good day, footy fans. My name's Phil Hurd, and welcome to the Women's Wrap. A look at all the results, ladders, and upcoming big games across all the women's footy in the Adelaide Footy League from Saturday, June the 17th. Let's start off with the Villiers Bakery Division 6. And here, a close one at Golden Grove, where the Kookaburras got up by 3 points over the Raggies. Tea Tree Gully, 16 over Marion. Flinders Park on the road, 8 over Goodwood Saints. And here's a wonderful result from my perspective. Ingle Farm, a team that has struggled so much this season, not only got to put a good score on the board, they got the win. And a pretty big win, 30 points over Mitchell Park. Congratulations to the Farmers. They're probably still celebrating. In terms of the results, it means that Tea Tree Gully and Athelston are now tied for top with 6 wins. And there's just a little bit of difference in games due to realignment and buys and what have you. Golden Grove and Marion are tied for 3rd. Flinders Park a further game back. And really it's a 5-way battle now for those 4 finals positions. Goodwood Saints 1 win. Ingle Farm now 1 win. Mitchell Park, hopefully their win is not too far away. The games coming up this week in the Villiers Bakery Division 6. You can see them there. Tea Tree Gully and Goodwood, Mitchell Park and Golden Grove. It's going to be Athelston and Flinders Park, Ingle Farm and Marion. Game of the week for mine, it is top 4 versus bottom 4. Athelston, Flinders Park at Max Amber Sportsfield is probably the pick of the bunch. To the Powerade Division 5, and some pretty one-sided results. All 4 losing teams scored in totality 1 point. Modbury by 88, Woodville South by 19, North Haven by 73, Loretto by 28. How does that affect the ladder? Well, Modbury's win, Edwardstown's loss. The Hawks replaced the Towns in the 4. Remembering these 2 sides drew when they met earlier this season. It looks like they're going to be battling for that last final position. But it's Woodville South and Loretto leading the way. North Haven a game behind. Salisbury North with 1 win ahead of Elizabeth. Still looking for their first victory. Those 2 sides, Salisbury North and Elizabeth, meet at the home of the Hawks next week. Is this possibly Elizabeth's chance of their first win? Well, it's probably their best chance of getting that first win. Other games on, Modbury and Loretto is 4th versus 2nd. North Haven and Kilburn up at Largs North. Hope Kilburn bring a clash jumper. Woodville South and Edwardstown, and as mentioned, Salisbury North and Elizabeth. A late game. In fact, they're all late games. 4:45 starts across the Powerade Division 5. To the Neomorph Mouthguards Division 4, Fitzroy held Greenacres scoreless. Hectorville held Mitcham goalless. Eastern Park, West Crawdon, they played a cracker of a men's game, scored 9 goals here. Eastern Park up by 27 points, and Lockleys beat Scotch by 17. Eastern Park, Hectorville, they're at the top 2. 2-game gap to Lockleys and Mitcham in the 4. Scotch, probably it's a 5-team for 4 spots race. Fitzroy with their 2nd win, West Crawdon with 2 wins, are now 3 games out of the 5. And remembering these teams have a 14-round season, so there's not a huge amount of games left to make up lost ground. And Greenacres, well, they'll be scratching for that first win. Especially this week, they play league leaders Eastern Park. Good luck. Hectorville and Lockleys is a great game. Fitzroy and Mitcham should be good. Probably last chance for the Lions. Scotch are in a better position to maybe sneak into the 5. Must win for them against West Croydon. That's the Neomorph Mouthguards Division 4. That Hectorville Lockleys game, by the way, is a Friday night affair at Daily Oval. For the 9 News Division 3, Pembroke enhanced their finals credentials. Almost a 10-goal win over Kenilworth Flinders Uni. Pulteney over Hope Valley by 9. Flinders Park took care of Jepps Cross by 8 points. Salisbury watched it all and stayed dry in the process. Flinders Park and Pembroke leading the way, 2-game gap to Hope Valley and Pulteney, a further 2-game gap to Jepps Cross. So this 4 looks pretty settled, especially when you look at the percentage differences between Pulteney and Jepps Cross. Then it drops to Kenilworth, Flinders Uni and Salisbury. Can they get a first win? Well, we'll find out. But Pembroke and Flinders Park, they meet this week at Pembroke. That's a 2v1 battle. Pulteney, Jepps Cross is 4 versus 5. Gee, if Pulteney win that, I reckon it's the 4 is set. The other games on this week, Salisbury and Hope Valley, one other game. Kenilworth, Flinders Uni, they have to bye. Division 2, speaking of byes, that's what Angle Vale had. Westminster kept Golden Grove to just 1 goal. Goodwood Saints kept Gazer to just 1 goal. And Tea Tree Gully kept Brighton without a goal. How does that result the ladder after 8 rounds? Tea Tree Gully, totally, utterly undefeated. 2 games back to Goody Saints and Golden Grove. They'll be battling for the top 2, which gives them the double chance. Westminster are in the 4. Anglevale and Gazer not yet out of it. And Brighton possibly are. 3 games back, plus a pretty major percentage gap. As good as 4 games back. And they've all played 7 or 8, remembering that there is a bye here. So not a lot of games left for Brighton to play finals this year. The fixture for round 9 next Saturday, June the 24th, Golden Grove the bye. Tea Tree Gully, Goodwood Saints, 1v2. That's the game to watch at Pertaringa Oval. Brighton play Anglevale, Westminster play Gazer at Landor Oval. So on to the Div 1 reserves. Wins to Henley, Morphy Parks, Broadview and Payneham Norwood Union. The losers pretty much kept to a goal, except Old Ignatians, who managed to sneak in 2. The Div 1 reserves ladder, Payneham unbeaten from Broadview, Morphy Parks. Then it drops. Smosh in the 4 with a losing record. Happy Valley, Adelaide Uni and Henley. Look, they got 2 wins. They've got to give themselves a chance. Old Iggy's unlikely at this point. Which leaves us just Division 1, the Premier Division in women's football in this state. And Henley kept Old Ignatians goalless, 55-point win to the Sharks that are starting to get kind of comfortable in this Division 1 setup. Morphy Parks went to Adelaide Uni, came away with a 32-point win. Broadview went to West Lakes, came away with a 69-point win. And Happy Valley finally got to play at home for the first time this year. Probably celebrated the new facilities, and that was as far as the celebrations went. Payneham Norwood Union held them to a point en route to a 35-point win. So those results pretty much to plan. It really is our top 3. Payneham Norwood Union unbeaten. Broadview and Morphy Parks are lurking just a game behind. Henley having a good run now. They're in the 4. Maybe making up the numbers. We'll see as the year progresses. But their percentage ahead of Smosh. Adelaide Uni a game back. Then a game further back to Ignatians, Old Ignatians, and a game further back to Happy Valley. They'll get more home games. Hopefully it won't be against an undefeated league leader. Speaking of next week, it is a Happy Valley old game. It's the bottom 2. It's at Park 25. So maybe a chance for the Vikings, maybe. Morphy Parks host Smosh. You'd favour Morphy Parks. And Henley, Adelaide Uni, well, winner of that possibly in the 4. But the Crackerjack game is going to be at Broadview Oval next Saturday. The Tigers and the Falcons. That is second hosting first. That is the game to watch next week in the Adelaide Footy League women's competitions. That just about wraps it up. Thanks to O'Neill Sportswear, by the way, for their support of this segment. Thanks to you for watching. Until we meet again next week, hope you enjoy your women's footy.
Welcome back, folks. Well, it's time to have a look at O'Neill Sportswear Men's Division 6. And it's interesting, the top 2 teams, Green Acres doing very well up in Division 6 and also Marion. But when we have a look at the ladder, you'll see Green Acres on top, Marion second. And the reason for that is that Greenacres did have the draw in round 7 with St Paul's, so they've got the extra point there. If we go across to the for and against, you'll see that Marion actually have the better for and the less against over Greenacres. So it's an interesting little play on numbers there. As we said, the draw has helped out Greenacres. We go down to the bottom 2, and Smithfield and Brahma Lodge do have a little bit of work ahead of themselves, so we're wishing those teams all the best. Of course, if we have a look at the weekend scores, Salisbury, who are doing very well, coming down from Division 5, they're sitting 3rd on the ladder. They had a massive 145-point win over Smithfield, and of course Greenacres, sitting top, had a massive 173-point win over Brahma Lodge, with Greenacres, of course, coming up from Division 7. So a couple of new teams into the division, not doing too badly there. Had a little look at the goal leaders here, and Matthew Gibson played a great game on the weekend. He kicked 8 goals. So there's a couple of things around the numbers again. Matthew Gibson is now leading the goal scorers. He's from Greenacres, and we've got some great footage of Matthew going around. Joshua Rosenthal from Fitzroy is coming second. Josh Mann from Salisbury is third. Those both players on 26, of course, Gibson on 28. Down on 22 is Ben Lennon from St Paul's. Now, in that 22 goals, it includes 15 goals versus Smithfield in round 5. Interesting to have a look at where players might be sitting in regards to the medal count, the better players. We look at Brandon Planager from Brahma Lodge, who's been in his best players 8 times out of 8. So well done, young man, having a fine season down there at Brahma Lodge. Let's have a look at this week's games coming up. And interesting, finally they get to play off last year's grand finalists in Division 7 and now in Division 6. And Greenacres on top of the ladder, and Adelaide Lutheran pushing up. They're 6th on the ladder. Of course, Greenacres had the 26-point win in that grand final, so let's see what happens when they play off again this season down there at Greenacres. The other game that's going to be interesting is Marion in 2nd place are playing Salisbury in 3rd place, and we're wishing Salisbury all the best. They've had a couple of down years and lean years, but they're going very well in this Division 6, so good luck to those teams as well. That is it from Division 6. Thank you for viewing. Welcome back. Well, BuddyBet, our great friends and supporters and sponsors. Let's have a chat around what is BuddyBet. If you haven't had a look at it, it's well worth it. Remember, gamble responsibly. But you can download the app. We're getting plenty of people downloading the app in recent weeks and just having a bit of fun with it. What is BuddyBet? You hear us talking about it, you see us wearing the gear, we've got the drink bottles and the can holders and the hats and everything, but BuddyBet is a world first social betting app. BuddyBet is a platform that allows users to place just small wagers with a friend or colleague to engage in friendly social activity, banter and entertainment. Favourable bets valued at even $5, as myself and Tommy Javor do. BuddyBet's uniqueness is its ability to accept non-traditional, funny, quirky social bets at the cost of a coffee or lotto ticket, digitising the handshake bet. Friends can formalise their social wager and play with or without money and simply for bragging rights. BuddyBet is a long overdue social service that caters for the old-fashioned handshake bet, bringing it into the modern day by leveraging new technologies. So we won't announce a BuddyBet tonight on the show, but what we will say is myself and my co-commentator on Friday night will be doing a BuddyBet at the Pembroke Hope Valley game. And the interest there is the co-commentator has a pretty big foot in the Pembroke camp over recent years, and myself, well, I've coached at both. So which way is the BuddyBet going to go? We're going to have a little bit of fun with it. Stay tuned, maybe tune into the game, see how the BuddyBet goes. At the moment, I can tell you, Tommy Javor's going very well with my BuddyBets, so I've had to have a little bit of time off and think about what my next bet might be. That's a little bit around BuddyBet. Please scan on the QR code, download the app and enjoy your digital handshake with your friends and colleagues. Well, our roving reporter's been out and about. Indy, where were you reporting last week?
Yeah, last week I got out one night and I managed to catch up with a couple of individuals from the Modbury Hawks Football Club from Division 3, and here's a couple of the interviews that I had. We know how the squad would have evolved throughout the years, and you would have seen that personally. What's different about the team in 2023?
It's just new blood, new culture. When I was first coming up through the A grade, you got those experienced old heads that we sort of had to mould to. So now, you got that next generation coming through. We're thankful enough that a few of them were sample players as well. It's been absolutely awesome to, have these boys come through and, take charge and take the team on their own back as well. So, yeah, it's been awesome in that way.
It's always really exciting to be working with new faces and seeing their untapped potential. Do you have a particular favourite right now, one that's really impressed you this year?
There's been a few. Honestly, everyone stood up as a team, but yeah, you probably can't go past maybe Darcy Pisani. He's just been a ball inside the midfield. Ryan Llewellyn, he finished third in the best and fairest for Centrals last year, and he's been just a juggernaut down back for us. Why Pisani's a bit of a cult hero, but honestly, yeah, they've all been brilliant. All of them have been brilliant.
Yeah, well, speaking of challenge, I'm just looking around me and I could see that you've divided the playing group into what looks like 4 or 5 different squads out there, all running differently, doing some different routines. So what's the idea behind that?
I was just trying to get more reps into the players, I suppose. If they're kind of all bundled up, they don't get as many kicks or handballs or some of the game scenario we do. So I suppose making it a bit more game-like, so they're moving more and they're getting their conditioning at the same time. So.
Yeah, well, as we said earlier, you sit at the top of the ladder at the moment alongside Hope Valley. Are they a particular opposition team you've spent extra time looking at this year, knowing that they could very likely be your next big competitor come the end of the season?
Oh, absolutely. I think every team's a competitor. We've faced some sides this year that have really pushed us and challenged us. We've been only, beat us, and so I guess no one's safe. Hope Valley are a very good outfit. We certainly do our homework on every side we play. We don't go into any games unplanned, but and we were fortunate enough last week that what we try to implement worked really well. I'm sure they're going to do theirs as well when they meet us on the return trip. So it makes it for an interesting back half of the year when we start meeting some of these sides again. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Tony's always out adventuring somewhere. Sometimes you never know where that might be, but I know you were somewhere of importance the other day, and where was that?
Well, I caught up with a couple of friends and past players from the Fitzroy Football Club. We actually hear about how the club was, first of all, amalgamation of 3 clubs, and it's a great little story and some funny little anecdotes along the way. So let's hear from Vince and Vince. Well, folks, it's an absolute delight to be joined by a couple of past players from O'Neill Sportswear Division 6 Fitzroy Football Club, and we're going to wind the clock back all the way back to when the club was set up in 1987. So first of all, joining me is a fellow commentator, of course, a head well known to many of us in the Football League, Vince Cosme.
How are you there, Tiger Tony?
Fantastic. We don't get to talk about her career very much. Tonight's the night. And of course, the Deputy Vice Captain, Vince Campagnoli.
Hello, Tony. How are you?
I am sensational. So, Vince, you were a big part of it, and I'm talking to Vince Campagnoli here on the left, because these two are cousins. Mate, 1987, tell us about the 3 clubs decided to get together and form the Fitzroy Football Club. What were those 3 clubs?
Well, it was Renown Park, St Peter's YCW, and St Dominic's, which is over here.
We'll pull it down. Let's have a look at the St Dominic's. Mate, that's got buttons on it, that jumper. Does it still fit?
St Dominic's is predominantly Blackfriars Old Scholars side, so they went there to play, and they were there for a couple of years, and then after that they formed this amalgamation, Fitzroy, with the Western Suburbs side and a Eastern Suburbs side,
So you've got the Fitzroy jumper up there. Give us a look. That's the training jumper, is it? So disregard the sponsorship on there, but of course that was the colours that you had to wear. And fantastic, Vince, because you wanted to fit in. You've come from green and black to wearing Fitzroy. Hold it up in front of the camera for us.
Go the Roys. We're the boys.
We're the boys.
There you go. Right. So 1987 comes around. You're doing the pre-season. Mate, Renown Park, the Workers... and then you've got a couple of college teams. Tell us.
Yeah, college teams. It was a bit hard initially, but eventually we gelled. But after the first few years of getting to know each other, a few nice events at the club and good times, and it was good.
So tell us about your coach, 1987, Trevor Sampson, a bit of his history.
Yeah, Trevor Sampson was former Woodville player, I believe. He was I think he was the inaugural coach, I'm pretty sure, at Fitzroy. And, he was a pretty good coach, yeah.
And Vince, you'd ventured around a couple of clubs and you ended up at West Adelaide, and then you come out to Fitzroy, or was West Adelaide in between somewhere, but I know you ended up at Fitzroy. And how did you find it walking in? By then, 91, probably 3 or 4 years where they have amalgamated. Your cousin says come out and have a kick. What did you think?
Oh, it was good. I was, like I said, I was at playing for the Mighty Crabs at Flinders Uni while I was at Flinders Uni. Then went out and joined my cousin out at Fitzroy when he was out there. So it's a couple of years just out at Fitzroy. But I think by the time I got there, I didn't sense there was anything, probably any baggage from the merger. It was a few years down the track by then. They'd been together for about 5 years. So we had some great times, a couple of great footy trips, which we probably
East Coast
we'll save for another time. But the 2 years we had out there, they were in Div 3, and the side was quite competitive. I think we just missed the finals 1 year, and they were doing quite well. We had Merv Harbison out there as the A grade coach, and Greg Phillips' younger brother Ross Phillips was the B grade coach out there at that time as well.
So Merv Harbison, ex AFL at Essendon, or VFL it was back then, and then West Adelaide, of course, was he? And so he comes in. So did training get a little bit more serious? Was it a little bit more full bore when Merv came in?
I
you were both playing.
I thought so. Yeah, he was pretty full on. Yeah.
How'd you find it, Vince?
It was it was a bit considering where I was at Flinders Uni. It was just a different. You could see a player with that sort of coming from that level and that experience. Just the way that they try to set up the structures and the game plan and the certainly the level of intensity around the training. It was certainly a lot train how you want to play.
Yep.
Because they would have been used to that at playing at a much higher level.
So, of course, St Dominic's, the heritage and players came across. Mate, we move across to Fitzroy. Some of the players that both of you played with at Fitzroy, let's go through some of them. There's some great names.
Yeah, the earlier ones that started off at Fitzroy was the Obbs brothers, and where Andy played for Melbourne, brother of Andy and the Holtz brothers, the Valenti brothers. There's a lot of brothers here.
Yeah, that's right. And the
Campagnoli brothers. My brother played as well, and and the Pickering brothers. There's 3 of them. So the O'Leary brothers, and a few of the.
That's right.
Ones,
of course, we had Andrew Simpson out there as well, playing at full forward, ex South Adelaide player, and. That's right. Sean O'Leary, captain. Just after that, I think he was vice captain when you were deputy vice captain.
No, I think Nick Kernahan was.
Nick Kernahan, and then he moved on from there, Sean, and to become premiership captain.
Yes, that's correct.
O'Leary, a name.
Yes, well, that's right. That's right. So, of course, Jay is the captain at Broadview, and his younger brother also plays. Both in the A grade, so they would have played. Today against Iggy's, and they got up by about 3 goals, I think.
All right, we're not worried about today, Vince. We'll go back to 87 and so on, because this one here, folks, fair dinkum. Vince, we've had many a long night laughing with Vince, of course. The nickname, folks, was Boogie. Now, we won't ask where that came from. Just use your emotion. Oh, dancer. Because I didn't have an E on the end of it.
A little bit of sarcasm there.
Yeah, now tell us, of course, for those of you out there, Fitzroy Oval has that big mound on it, and it did in your playing day as well, Vince. Now, a little bit of a story, Captain Courageous on the far side. Tell us about this mark and goal that you've been accredited with.
I accidentally took a mark on the half, floated from the back lines and got hammered in the process, and I was a bit soft in the day, Tony, like I say, and got up, and I wasn't able to take the kick, so I was sort of... and so Andrew Simpson, who was a fine kicker, as you know, he kicked the ball. He took it for me, and he sort of, it was about 70 metres out, 60 or 65 metres out, or whatever. Yeah, it gets better as you go on. Kicked the torch through the goals, and kicked the goal. And at the quarter-time huddle, it was Trevor Sampson at the time says, "What about that inspirational goal from Boogie?" And that inspirational Mark and goal from Boogie, and on the halfback flank, and Simo just winked at me and said, "Yeah, I'll let you have that one, mate."
So the Mounders come into play out there. Gentlemen, you've both got sons, of course. Nick playing at St Paul's, and you've got a son playing at Ross Trevor. You've got a well, we won't say he's not quite a relative yet, but it's your daughter's partner. He's playing at Ross Trevor, and also your nephew. So he's the relative who has had a kick at Ross Trevor. So there's 4 players out there for Fitzroy that are quality players not playing at Fitzroy under the father-son rule. Are we going to see father-son or father-relative rule coming into vogue?
Well,
I don't think so.
Not sure. I know Nick's. He's played with a lot of his schoolmates from Year 12 about 3 years ago.
Yep.
3-4 years ago. So they got about half a dozen down there just having a kick in the lower grade, having some fun, and
Scratch him off.
They had a win today as well. So well done to them.
Yeah. All right, and Vince, you got 3. Surely one. Come on, one of them.
Much like us, Tony, when we play footy, you play with your mates and you have a good time. So, I think they're quite happy down there.
Yeah. Well, as we say, once you've played one game, you're a legend at the club, and you two certainly played some quality games down there. And it's a bit about the Heritage Community Club. Fantastic, as you guys know. I live very close by, and it is a fantastic club and a lot of depth. And you guys were instrumental in the early days in the Heritage. So very proud of what you've achieved, and thank you so much for joining us and giving us an insight into the early days at Fitzroy.
No worries. Thank you, Tony.
Well played, young man. I'll see you soon enough.
Thank you. Welcome back, folks. Well, Dartfish, great supporter of the league. Of course, we film all the games. In the background of that are a lot of the statistics, Indy, and it's fantastic. We go out and look at the games and we get some background on the players. You can go in and have a look at these leaderboards, and we're starting to see trends now as we're getting past round 8, and you can see who are the players getting disposals, what they're doing with them. You can look up heat maps, etc, etc. So we're going to have a look at a couple of our leaderboards tonight, because we've got so many things that we can go through. So the first one, Indy, is the goal scorers for Division 1.
Yeah, there's been quite a few leading goal kickers across the league, but Jaden Davis from Prince Alfred's Old Collegians Club is well above the rest right now. 7 goals ahead of the runner-up, 28 for the year. But don't rule out Tristan Carcuro from Sacred Heart Old Collegians. He's got 21. From there, it's below the 20 threshold, but Tyson Brazel from Prince Alfred with 17 goals, also looking pretty sharp right now, Tony. But take us through some of the major ball winners and also the effective ball winners.
And that's a good point there, Indy, because you can look at who's getting the disposals, but are they effective? So effective disposals and disposal efficiency. So Hayden Jolly from Prince Alfred, he's had 171 effective disposals, running at 78%, if you don't mind. Cooper Gaffney from Port District, 154 effective, running at 68%. Lachlan McNamara, 146, running at 82%. I will very quickly mention, because we only want the top 3, but I'll give the 5 here. There's a reason behind it. Jack Trengove, as we know, Prince Alfred, 145, running at 77. And the highest here is Andrew Bradley, the recruit out there at PAC, 144, running at 83%. 4 of the top 5 effective disposal and disposal efficiency players are from PAC. We move across to most disposals. Cooper Gaffney, Port District, 226, right up there. Will Ferrari, both the Ferrari brothers are having a great season out there at Old Iggy's. He's on 224. Hayden Jolly at PAC is running at 220. That's most disposals. We can break this down though into kicks and handballs. What have we got, Indy?
Well, if we break it down into the kicks, Will Ferrari from Old Iggy's has been a shining light on a gloomy season so far. 165 kicks for the year. Wow. Cooper Gaffney from the Port Districts Football Club, 156 for the year as the runner-up. And rounding out the top 3, Jack Plenty from the Brighton Bombers. He's a valuable asset to have running off of half-back. And for the handballs, Andrew Bradley from Prince Alfred Old Collegians, Lachlan McNamara from Prince Alfred Old Collegians, and Campbell Wildman from, you guessed it, Prince Alfred Old Collegians. They ran out the top 3 handball users. They love that transition game in the corridor with 100, 91 and 82 handballs respectively for the year.
And I hope we're not speaking out of school here, but if I was an opposition coach, they're the kind of statistics you go back and have a look at and say, well, how do we cut them down? Do we put them under pressure? Do we man on? What do we do? Where are they getting them? Where are they delivering to? You can go into your Dartfish stats and look at heat maps, see where players run to and how to maybe nullify that, or do you focus on your own game plan? So that's a little bit around disposals. Now we look at the marks. So a whole different range of players in here because there are the most marks, yes, that's straightforward, but then we've got contested, uncontested, and of course the important inside 50s, and don't we all like an inside 50 mark because we're close to the 2 big sticks. Our most marks, Chris Curran, PAC with 54, Cooper Gaffney, Port District 48, there's only 6 between them, and Jack Trengo, PAC 46, of course Jack being the athlete he is, covers a lot of ground, that's in the most marks, but now we get to contested, of course Big Alex Colotto at Sacred Heart with 24, so that's going into your packs or one-on-ones. Chris Curran, PAC, so he's got 54 most marks, 23 of them are contested, so well done young man. And player we saw on the weekend who really likes leading up to the ball, plays around that half-forward flank area and moves up the ground as well. Dominic Pratico from Broadview with 21, outstanding player on the weekend. Uncontested and inside 50s, please, Indy.
Well, Cooper Gaffney knows how to find space. He's leading uncontested marks in the league with 41 for the year. But just behind him, Charlie Pridham also knows how to find space. 39 uncontested marks for the year. And from the Broadview Tigers team, Hamish Ralph, one of the early dominators for that team, 38 uncontested. So those players know how to find the space, but who can clunk a big one inside 50? Tristan Carkiro has 21 marks inside 50 for the year. He always gives himself the best chance for a goal, but unsurprisingly, Jaden Davis is runner-up for that, 19 marks inside 50, and he's got 28 for the year, so that would have to mean that almost nearly a dozen probably would come from not even set shots, just run-on plays. And Michael McMahon from the Glenunga Rams with 16 marks inside 15 for the year.
Just interesting on that, Indy, the 2 top inside 50 marks correlates with the 2 top goal scorers as well that just changed position. So there's the reasoning behind it. This is an interesting one. We've seen some new recruits come in this year and some, well, we won't say old stages, but some mature heads that have been around the league for a while. Take us into the hit-outs. This is very interesting.
Well, we knew going into the year that T. Carter was a huge loss for Goodwood, but at the very least, they've gotten a pretty good positional swap for them with Jade Cleland leading hit-outs in the league with that familiar 28 on his back because he's got 258 hit-outs for the year, leading the league, but only 10 hit-outs behind that. Blake Penny was one of the best in that performance, that losing performance against the Brighton Bombers on the weekend, and has been leading Tea Tree Gully from the front. He's one of their best players this year, without a doubt. Would have to be polling best and fairest votes every week at this point, I reckon, for the performances he's putting in. And in third place, and the only other ruckman with 200 plus hit-outs for the year, Jordan Neal from PAC. So you'll find PAC popping up in the top 3 for most of those major stats, and that explains why they're on top of the ladder.
I'll tell you, this is the interesting stat to finish with, the tackling machine. Will Ferrari, number 14 from Old Ignatians, has 61 tackles. He's 12 ahead of the next best in tackling. So he is an absolute tackling machine. I guess Old Iggy's down the bottom of the ladder. The opposition do have the ball a lot of the time, but there's a player, when you ask for work rate and please put in, that is an outstanding effort by the young man. Interesting when you were talking about those hit-outs as well. We spoke about Jade Cleland and Blake Penny the other couple of weeks ago. So let's have a look at where they may be in that roll the dice player of the year for that part in the racehorse, because I know Blake will love this. He neighed at Tommy Javor the day he won the best on ground up there. So he's looking forward to that little bit of fun with the GG if he can get it up. So fantastic. Thank you so much to Dartfish. We're going to have a look at, this is only just a small number, we're going to have a look at some other things over the next few weeks, and I think it's a fascinating insight into how players around the league are playing. So thank you so much for your help with that, Indy.
Welcome to your first edition of Indies Analytics, where I talk about the game I had first-person perspective of on the weekend and the main key points to take away from it. This week's key point, versatility in the forward line. Thomas Welsby is currently top 6 ranked for the leading goal kickers in Division 1. He is one of Brighton's best individuals, but he was absent this weekend and he was also absent the previous weekend before the bye, which proved as a huge issue for the Bombers, potentially one which could have completely served up any hope that they had of getting back into the season. But a new solution came in the form of a former Geelong Cats VFL listed player, Jake Tarka. In his days as a Geelong VFL player, he drew early comparisons to Graham Myers for his versatility to be able to play off of a half-back flank and in a half-forward pocket. The reason he drew those comparisons was due to the fact that he was only 177 centimetres tall. It's a very difficult thing to play as a forward with that type of height unless you have super large agility. But if you think Jake Tarka was a small crumbing forward with lightning speed, then you clearly wouldn't have watched the game, because Jake Tarka, for a 177 centimetre player, was leaping like he was 6'5". He had a perfectly timed jump all day, and when you consider how many of his goals came from the set shots, particularly that match-winning set shot, it goes to show that he can really well time his leaps and break away from his man. Brighton have been almost over-relying on Thomas Welsby over the years, bombing it in long, and it's a very comfortable thing to do and an easy thing to do, to bomb in long to your key forwards. But sometimes it's best to have that third man, that slightly smaller target that you can get a slightly less strong defender on, who can break away, time their jumps well, and get higher percentage shots. That is exactly what Jake Tarka has added to the side. In his time as a Geelong Cats VFL player, as well as a player for the South Adelaide Panthers in the SANFL, we never quite got to see his full potential. Just the sheer quality of this man's set shots, even his behinds on that day, was still very close to making the roost. And that's what matters, is when you have that really nice kicking style, it gives you confidence even when you don't slot them through all the time. It could even be a turning point for the Brighton Bombers season. Those last 90 seconds as well showed that versatility with a slightly more minimalistic approach. Brighton were really good scoring out of the centre clearances in the first half of the game, and obviously with Nigel Osborne as an asset in the midfielder, you're always going to have those advantages in the centre clearances. But what about when you have to score from defensive 50 to forward 50? That's how Tea Tree Gully got back into the game, but it was also how Brighton managed to hold on to it. Because when the quarter comes to a grind and you feel like you spend nearly 5 to 10 minutes all in the same patch of grass, you get that motivation to break through at the other end, and eventually you start to run the forwards impatient. So even though it might seem like a strategical drop-off for Brighton to only win this game by as much as they did, it was actually very necessary. And once again, Jake Tarka, a huge part of that. But obviously we give credits to Nigel Osborne and the on-ballers for the Brighton Bombers, who can really make an effort this upcoming weekend against Old Iggy's to get a percentage boost and jump right back into the finals mix, because there's a bit of vulnerability there in the mid-table now. But that's all for Indies Analytics this week. I look forward to bringing you more coverage of the next game I will be commentating this weekend, which will be the Glenunga Rams playing the Sacred Heart Old Collegians. So be sure to catch that, as well as all of the other Division 1 games which you can live stream. But now sit with us as we decide to give you a little preview into our Friday night live stream for Div 3.
Well, folks, we have got a huge announcement about this Friday night, but first, now this is an old woolly jumper. Indy, can you just hold that one up, please?
Okay.
I've gone back through the catalogue of jumpers that I've got. This one is a Pembroke jumper. These are both wool. This was a training jumper. You see no pattern on it or anything. The mighty Pembroke Kings. And this one, of course, is Hope Valley. Two of the clubs that I've been lucky enough to coach at, and they are playing this week in a Division 3 game at Norwood Oval. Tune in 8 o'clock Friday night, live for Pembroke versus Hope Valley. A couple of rivals here. This will be an absolute belter of a game. As we said, live from Norwood Oval with commentary. Please enjoy.
Well, over the weeks doing this show, we've been asking fans to send in what they think some of the plays of the week are, and we finally got it. Our play and goal of the day, or should we say of the evening in this case, because it was from a night game, Tony.
Well, Indy, please, if you would you mind just commentating us through it while the footage is shown?
With pleasure. Smosh Westlakes versus Broadview, round 7 of the Women's League Division 1. Danny handballs to Matilda, handballs to Rhiannon, who kicks the 50-metre long bomb.
Oh, mate, that is sensational. Fair dinkum. I could just sit and watch you commentate. That is fantastic. So, folks, that's what we're saying. If you know of a goal or a mark that we may have missed or you think is worthy of one of the contenders, please send it in. The numbers will be up on the screen, the email address. Plenty happening in women's football. We've had Beck Northcott go out. We've had Matt Gale, of course, go out. Indy, yourself and myself have been visiting clubs in the past few weeks. We want to get more of that happening, involve more of the players. We've had some of the coaches on, and we want to hear from the players yourselves. So we're going to have some more visits and interviews ahead as the season progresses. So please keep an eye out for our roving reporters. Well, folks, always an exciting part of the show where we get to announce the goals and marks of the week and look at the up-and-comers as well. So last week's goal winner was Tom Fuss, if I say it as it's written, or it could be Fuss, so apologies there, Tom. Either way, he's won twice. So from Scotch Old Collegians Division 3. Well done, young man. What a sensational goal. And our mark winner is Tristan Carcuro from Sacred Heart Old Collegians Division 1. Of course, our mark winner wins the Bianco $100 voucher. And the goal winner, this week we have a new sponsor. They win a $50 voucher from ORTC. We'll have more to come on who and what ORTC is over the coming weeks.
And those are our votes for this week. Remember, the top 3 voted candidates for Goal and Mark of the Year will appear on the front of the Facebook page for the Adelaide Footy League. To cast your own vote on what you think the best goal and mark was, head over to the Facebook page and use the respective emoji reaction of your choice on the post you think gave the best goal or mark of the week.
Competitor with the hunger to compete. I am for the one who wants to get in their opponent's grill. I am the one who brings you the science. I am Neomorph. I am your protector.
Well, Indy, it's been an absolutely sensational show. We've had a couple of guests in, we've told some stories, we've looked at some footage. We would like to thank all of our viewers for watching the show over the season so far. 8 rounds in, we've still got 10 rounds to go, Indy. What else do we need to do to thank our faithful viewers?
Well, we always have to thank our guests because they're the motivation for us bringing you these shows, and obviously we try to bring you the best content possible and we have your best interests in mind. So we thank everybody who's been viewing these over the course of the year. We hope to get more as the year improves and as we ourselves also improve. You can always find us on social media, whether that be through our YouTube live streams, our Facebook page. There are many different alternative routes to come and see some action from Tony, Neil and myself. And you'll see a bit more of us as we once again continue to live stream all of the Division 1 games this weekend. And I'm actually working with Tony this weekend on Saturday. We're commentating the Glenunga Rams and Sacred Heart Old Collegians games. So a bit of a top of the table clash there. Really looking forward to that. But we thank you all for viewing and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Hi, I'm Morgan Knight.
I'm Phil Herden.
I'm Vince Cosmate.
Thanks for watching Between the Posts.
Thanks for watching Between the Posts.
Thanks for watching Between the Posts.